Well, Christmas can be a mix of emotions. You can have all the highs and all the lows. And this year, I would say my family is in the middle of a rather dramatic low. So, my husband was hospitalized 7 weeks ago. He's currently being intubated for the third time with a host of issues that none of us could ever see coming. So, what does that mean for the holidays? Well, the holidays for me has been about survival. Thanksgiving, didn't cook a thing. Picked up food from our local Cracker Barrel and tried to make the best of the day. It's interesting being at a hospital during the holidays because you hear the beeps of monitors, the smell of antiseptic. There are a few decorations thrown up, but everybody is just in this survival mode. And I know I'm not the only one, whether you're in the middle of a crisis or not, that has felt like Christmas is about survival sometimes, right? That seems to be when hard stuff hits, is during the holidays. And I was recently thinking about all of this and how are we going to navigate this season? It doesn't even feel like Christmas right now because things are just so dark. And then God revealed a beautiful story to me found by one of my favorite people, Corrie Ten Boom, one of my personal heroes. I absolutely love her. And I had never heard this story before, but a friend sent it to me while I was in the hospital. She was like, "Hey, I know you like Corrie Ten Boom. Thought you might think this was cool." That was the depths of it. But I'm going to share it with you now. So if you don't know Corrie Ten Boom, she and her sister, her entire family really, fought against the Nazis during World War II. They hid Jews in their house and other people who even German POWs and German escapees that didn't want to be part of what the Nazis were doing. They hid them all and took care of the mentally handicapped, the disabled. They loved people and loved shining God's light wherever they were. Well, because of this, the Nazis found out, it killed her brother, and her nephew, I think, was missing in action during this time. She and her sister Betsy were sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp, which was essentially a death camp in Germany. And the year's 1944. Corrie was suffering with tremendous pain and edema. This really hit me when I heard this. It jumped out at me because my husband is also suffering from full body edema right now with a host of other things. It makes it really difficult to walk or move, and it can be a life threatening situation. Corrie, and you get this often from starvation, your body swells up. And so she had been starved to death and beaten here in this concentration camp. And she was basically languishing in Ravensbrück. And she began thinking, one day it hit her, oh my goodness, it's almost Christmas. She began thinking about all the Christmases past with the lighting of the trees and the mouth-watering food they would have and the lit candles and the songs and the gifts. And she realized this does not feel like Christmas. How can this be Christmas in this horrible place? So she was looking for any source of goodness. She wanted one glimmer of those warm feelings that she had had. But instead, one day she walked between the barracks in the concentration camp and she says, and I quote, "I saw the saddest Christmas trees I'd ever witnessed. They were trees jutting up in the middle of the camp with a pile of dead bodies underneath them." And in her book, Christmas Memories, she wrote, "Dark was it in my heart and darkness was all around me. So how is it possible to celebrate Christmas?" Well, that night she tried to resurrect any meager shreds of light that she had inside. And she said, "Okay, I'm going to tell my fellow inmates about Jesus. And we're going to talk about Christmas and what it truly means and how we can still celebrate here, even in the midst of a death camp." But her fellow inmates mocked her, ridiculed her, sneered, and told her to mind her own business. And at this, Corrie was just so brokenhearted and weary that she just hushed up. Well, sometime before midnight, one of the guards noticed how severe her edema was and moved her into the infirmary. And she was like, "Oh, this is not good." If you don't go to the infirmary of a death camp with good things thinking that's going to be the result. But they sent her there because she was in such bad shape. Well, she thought, okay, I'm in Christmas Eve in a death camp, and there's a pretty good chance that they think I'm going to die. So this is not what I wanted. But about around midnight, she heard the wails of a little child, and it took all of her effort because the wails didn't stop, and she couldn't let it go. And so she pushed herself up and shuffled through the infirmary. It was dark. There were no guards inside. They were all outside. And she just searched for the sound of the noise. And she found a little girl on a cot who was crying for her mother. She said, "My goodness, what is wrong? And she said, I want my mom. And she noticed this little girl was emaciated. She was starved. And she noticed that she had had an incision on her back. She had clearly just had surgery. And all the Nazis had done to treat her was put some toilet paper on her back. And she was all by herself, alone in this dark infirmary. So Corrie knelt down next to her and she said, "Hi, my name's Corrie. What's your name?" She said, "It's Oeli." She said, "Oh, that's a beautiful name. Oh, Ellie, it's so nice to meet you." She said, "Are you crying for your mother?" And she goes, "I haven't seen my mom in so long. I don't know where she is and I'm scared." So Corrie wrapped her up in her arms and said, "Well, I know somebody that also loves you even more than your mom does, and his name is Jesus." And Oeli said, "Really? Tell me about him." And Corrie told Oeli all about Jesus and that he was God's son and that he had come to earth. He had done miracles and healed people and wanted nothing more than to give people hope and a future. And she told Oeli all about Jesus. And Oeli said, "Tell me more about Jesus. I want to hear more." And she said, "Well, for those who believe in him, he said that he is preparing a special place for them in heaven." And Oeli said, "Really? What heaven? What's heaven like?" Corrie smiled. She said, "It's a beautiful place with no more pain and no more evil." Wow. And Jesus is preparing a room for me? Is it a big house or a little house? And Corrie laughed and she said, "Well, what do you think?" And Oeli said, "I don't think I would want a big house. I want a little house. I'm a little person. I want a little house." And Corrie loved on her, told her some more about Jesus. And as Oeli drifted off to sleep in Corrie's arms, Corrie heard her whisper. She said, "Wow, I'm so happy to know I'm going to see Jesus there someday soon." And that's when Corrie realized, oh my goodness, Christmas is not about me. It was never about me. God allowed me to be in Ravensbrück concentration camp at this moment because a little girl needed hope and comfort. And that's what I'm telling myself right now in my own dark season. Although it was nothing like what Corrie went through, it can be discouraging. Like, this is not the Christmas I wanted or I'd hoped for or I'd planned for. Well, Christmas is not about receiving love. It's about giving it away. So this Christmas, I will be at the hospital bright and early with a tray of cookies and donuts and goodies for all the nurses who have been so faithful to take care of my husband. And my focus has shifted from what's Christmas going to mean to me to how can I bring Christmas to other people. And I pray this will be your heart's prayer as well. Have a beautiful and blessed Christmas.